Hello, today we are going to discuss a very important topic regarding the War of the Three Kings in Ireland and, of course, the Battle of Aughrim, and that is spies, traitors, and turncoats, which, of course, is a very emotive topic. So, with armies of roughly 20,000 soldiers on each side, there is bound to be traitors. There's always going to be someone who is going to be on the make, so to speak, or who's going to look after number one. The Williamites knew that buying information in Ireland was going to be hugely important if they were to win. William had allowed a large budget in his war chest for the payments for information. He knew how valuable this information would be. So now we're going to look at some of the people who are famous for being traitors during the War of the Three Kings. So we're going to start with the Williamite side. So a famous Williamite traitor, so to speak, is Robert Lundy, one of the best known traitors of the Williamite War. He was the governor of Derry. As James and his army approached the town, he sought to speak with James and sought to make a deal. This brought complete outrage inside the walls of the town of Derry, and the apprentice boys went and closed the gates to the approaching Jacobite forces and to James himself and shouted no surrender. And as you will know, no surrender has become a very well used term in Northern Irish politics since the 1690s. The siege of Derry then occurred for several months. Derry was very nearly starved, huge suffering. Lundy is imprisoned in the Tower of London, and he is tried on the charge of treason, but is found not guilty. Now, Lundy's defence was he was trying to stop the death and suffering of the people of Derry, that he was trying to make sure that James would not, I suppose, plunder Derry. This did not wash with the inhabitants of the town, and effigies of him are still burnt on bonfires in Northern Ireland on the 12th of July to this day. So, despite the fact he was found not guilty, Robert Lundy is definitely remembered for his treachery. And so, being found not guilty isn't always important, and the court of social opinion and public opinion can be very important indeed. So on the Jacobite side, I suppose the most famous Jacobite traitor is Henry Luttrell. Brigadier Luttrell was a very good cavalry officer. He and his cavalry, despite his ability, abandoned their post in Aughrim, leaving a complete flank of the battlefield unguarded. The Williamite cavalry crossed the causeway and rode on towards Kilcommodon Hill, and Luttrell and his soldiers just rode away, left the infantry to be plundered and killed, and left a huge gap. He was later caught by the Jacobites. He was court-martialled in Limerick but was found not guilty by a majority of 10 votes to 2. Now, you'd think that would be would secure, we'll say, our opinion that Luttrell was not guilty, but something else happened. Ginkell had found out that Luttrell was captured, and he made it clear and sent word to the Jacobite leaders, to Sarsfield and so on, that if Luttrell was hanged, he would hang William Dorrington. Now, Dorrington was Jacobite general who was captured here at Aughrim and had been treated well up until this point by the Williamites, but they made it clear he would be killed if Luttrell was killed. Now, why was Ginkell occupied or bothered by the fate of Luttrell, a Jacobite? Why would he be bothered what the Jacobites were doing after Aughrim? It would suggest strongly that Luttrell was in William's pay. And even more damning evidence has since come to light after the Battle of Aughrim, and after his court-martialed. Luttrell joined the Williamite army and also received a pension from William for his role in Aughrim. This was despite the fact he was only in his 40s. So why would the leader of the Williamites, William, be paying a Jacobite general for his role on the other side of the Battle of Aughrim? I think it's clear that Luttrell was in the pay of William, and treachery was afoot. Luttrell lived a very interesting life. He conducted an affair that ended up with him being carried. He was on his way home and he was being carried aloft on a chair, and he is shot dead in the chair. So Aughrim wasn't the only time he was controversial. Luttrell led a very interesting life. Now, while those two people that we've just discussed would be regarded as traitors to a point, there's also question marks. So I'm going to just talk about some of the Williamite question marks. So there are 3 Williamite generals that Ginkel refused to work with when he took charge of the army in Ireland. They were Percy Kirk, Sir John Lanier, and James Douglas. He felt they were crypto Jacobites. He was convinced that they were for James and not for William, and that their presence was incredibly damaging. So he got rid of them out of Ireland completely. Instead, he got 3 new generals who would go on to be incredibly important at Aughrim. They were Hugh Mackay, John Talmash, and Ruvigny. Ruvigny led the charge up Kilcommon Hill after Sanruth's death and made a serious breakthrough. John Talmash was very important as well throughout the battle and led with distinction. Mackay made the breakthrough at the Causeway and took Aughrim Castle, which was also very important. They were 3 massive substitutes. They really were. They did help deliver Aughrim for the Williamites. So then on the Jacobite side, there's also several question marks. De Ulson was Sanruth left him in charge of guarding the crossing of the River Shannon in Athlone. He went to a dance class and left it completely unguarded. The Williamite army just walked across the river. That's a huge issue. Like, now, Sanruth himself was at a party while this happened, but the man he left in charge was dancing. So you would wonder what was going on. So De Ulson is there is a question mark over his loyalty because the Williamites managed to cross that loan. Other parts that would make you question his loyalty to James was he was a recent Huguenot convert to Roman Catholicism. As Michael Collins famously said in the 1920s about Erskine Childers, "Beware the convert, he has too much to prove." That could be said about Druson. When this happened, people immediately said, well, maybe he is still a Huguenot. Maybe he is still a French Protestant. Maybe he still wants William on the throne. Perhaps he is a traitor. The evidence, it's hard to uncover really what went on, but he is a question mark. Dominic Sheldon was brave at the Battle of the Boyne. He showed great bravery fighting for the Jacobites. However, at Aughrim, he left with Luttrell. Now, what's worse about him leaving with Luttrell is he was a general and Luttrell was of a lower rank, the brigadier. So the general makes the final decision, does he not? And by riding away with Luttrell, more soldiers left with him. So it's sort of been proven that Luther was definitely in William's pay, but it has led to a huge question mark about Sheldon as well. So that's it about the Traitors, Spies and Turncoats. As in all major wars and battles, they were present. Some very interesting stories about the War of the Three Kings in Ireland and some of its colourful soldiers. So thank you very much.